Once again, hello to all of you. This is Father Modesto. Again, continuing with the theme of the three faces of Cursillo. Last time we spoke about a little bit of the history of how the whole concept of the weekend was born and the various faces of Cursillo as a consequence or as a result of a study of the environment, of the reality that the Eduardo Bonin and the initiators of the movement experience in the post-Civil War, World War II era, Spain. And as a consequence of that pilgrimage to Compostela and the discernment that came out that we call the study of the environment, was that these three phases were determined. That we wanted to be able to reach as many people as possible with the message of the gospel, because there were too many Catholic Christians living with what Eduardo would call their backs to Christ. That faith had become a routine or somehow a mechanical effort, and a part of a tradition, custom, or worse yet, a hypocrisy. And of course, all of these were integrated eventually into the talks at the weekend. But the beginning of that was that experience to Compostela and the development of it. And then the concept of how best to reach the greatest number of people so that they would come to know and love the Lord and be convinced that they are loved by God and react out of that. And what mechanisms can we provide for them so that they may not only persevere but grow in their faith and in their commitment and therefore their service to God. And so we saw that the pre-Cursillo was the beginning of that Cursillo outreach. And that in this period, those who already made their weekend experience, those who are already living the commitment to Christ in their lives and putting the best of themselves, or who they are as a human being, with all their qualities and gifts at the service of God, that these individuals would befriend others, because there is no shortage of those inside and outside of the institutional church, inside and outside of our parish, that could not benefit by the experience and could not come to be more convinced, committed, and dedicated to the Lord. And so, through that initial phase of what we call the pre-Cursillo, we approach others through friendship, the same way that God approaches us. And that we use that friendship as the primary tools, not only in the pre-Cursillo, but in the 3-day weekend or Cursillo weekend, and in the post-Cursillo. It is the primary tool of evangelization that also assists us to continue to grow in our faith and in our commitment. And so, what happens in the 3-day weekend? We know that a team is selected. How the responsibilities that we have, and in the United States and Los Angeles in particular, we have kitchen crew and we have, royal room crew, but we know that that is an adaptation to a need. In many places, they don't have a kitchen crew. There's just the people who are giving the talks and acting as coordinators at each table, or the curia. And so we know that during this 3-day weekend, the purpose is that the person comes to have a personal encounter, first of all, with themselves. Without this personal encounter with who I am, and it is one of the most important aspects of the 3-day weekend. It is really from Thursday evening through Friday evening when we have the piety talk, what Cursillo is all about, helping those making the weekend to look at themselves closely without fear, without unnecessary, useless guilt, but to look at themselves completely, warts and all. And to having gone through that self-examination, that is not something that begins and ends on the 3-day weekend. We know that the process of metanoia or conversion is a lifelong process for every human being, and most especially for a Christian. I need to face myself. I need to be converted more and more to the Lord. In order to have a personal encounter, the second aspect of that in the weekend, a personal encounter with Christ, I need to first see who I am. Christ doesn't want to meet with some faker, with some mask, with somebody who doesn't even know who they are. He wants to meet with the real you, with everything, because he loves you just as you are and can help you to be more than you are, to achieve the fullness of who you are as a human being and as a child of God. And so in the weekend, we want first that personal encounter, that self-examination, where we look at ourselves closely. And we know that we already made the weekend. And we already have heard these talks and gone through the process. But we also know, if we're honest, that we're not exempt from the work of the Spirit, because behind us, during the pre-Cursillo, you should have been on your knees praying for your candidates and for the friends that you have who are sending somebody to the weekend, and for those who may or may not go. And during the weekend, of course, we need to be on our knees. We need to be doing sacrifice. We need to be before the Blessed Sacrament. Be the support for those who are making the weekend and for those who are serving in a weekend. And so, as an essential part of it, the thing that knits everything together is palanca, prayer and sacrifice. That lever that moves even the stoniest of hearts. And so we want them to start with this personal encounter in the weekend, so that then they can meet the Lord. That often, we know, leads them to a reconciliation, to sacramental confession and absolution. And as a priest, I can tell you that what the Lord accomplishes on a weekend is truly amazing and humbling. Sitting there, listening to these people bare their souls for their first time ever. Maybe lifelong Catholics, maybe have gone to confession hundreds of times. But you see, the problem is, they were just listing sins or things that they did wrong or failed to do right. But it never was something that came from a true self-evaluation, self-knowledge, and that led them to want to be reconciled with God and His church. And so you hear these wonderful confessions that come as part of that self-encounter. And Eduardo Bonin said that one is always sort of soft-pedaled in Cursillo, that one of the key, crucial aspects of Cursillo is that first phase in the weekend of a personal encounter, because that needs to be extended for the rest of our life, we need to continue that metanoia, that conversion process, always, because life brings us curves. It presents challenges when we least expect them and from the most unexpected corner. Now we're dealing with a pandemic and we're trying to do it this way. We have to be creative and we have to do whatever is necessary to keep our health, to protect the health of others, and to continue the ministry, which is to take Christ to those places where he is not known, most especially to human hearts. And so that second phase in the weekend, you can't really cleanly cut one phase from the other. They're all interlaced. But generally, by Saturday, we're going more into who I am as a child of God, as a member of the body of Christ. What am I called to do and to be? And finally, on the third phase, which is generally on Sunday, although it already is present through the team, there is that encounter with the community of faith that is the church. Throughout it, the team needs to embody friendship, needs to embody humility and service, needs to embody what it is to be truly a deeply convinced and committed Christian who lives by faith, who journeys by faith and not by sight. Everything we say, we do, it's reflected not whether we have a royal or not, whether we have a talk or not. It needs to reflect this basic aspect of Christian living, that I often walk by faith, not by sight, that I must rely totally on the Lord, and that I have a call to be another Christ for others, a call to be a missionary disciple of Christ who makes him present, who takes them to those places where he is not present. Not only my family and my parish, but my workplace, my profession. And so, during that weekend experience, I need to have that triple encounter. And the team's responsibility is to be the facilitators of that by a spirit of friendship and unity, of love and service that is reflected by everybody, from the kitchen crew to those in the royal room. And in the force, so that they can, after that clausura, after the closing ceremony at the Cursillo weekend, they go back to their homes, to their workplaces, to their neighborhoods, to their communities, to their parish, and begin to live that out. But how can they live that out? We try to give them on that last day the tools, the minimal tools. Cursillo doesn't want to start new structures or new organizations. Eduardo was very clear about that. There are very many wonderful ministries and apostolates and organizations and structures in the church. Cursillo doesn't want to create any more. That's why it always kind of rubs me wrong to hear cursillista, because that somehow adds a tag, which is anathema to what Eduardo and those first initiators of the movement wanted. We wanted to be just Christians, living the gospel, committed to their faith, taking on ownership as lay people, because it's directed primarily to lay people, taking ownership of my baptismal call to holiness, taking ownership of my call to be a witness of Christ in my environment with those with whom I live and relate. And even the environment might be loosely, some football stadium where I'm part of the crowd. That's not much of an environment, but it is one. And even there, I need to reflect that I am a Christian. In whatever place and with whomever I am, I need to be that. And to do this, I need piety. I need study. And I need action lived out in my fourth day. And in order to live my piety, my study, and my action, I need friends. I need Jesus, and I need others, because I know, and I discover at the weekend, that I don't have to journey alone, that I have the Lord, and that I have my friends. And they don't even need to be Cursillistas, but we do the grouping in that fourth day, that post-Cursillo experience, which relies primarily on that support group that we call group reunion. A small group of other committed Christians who want to journey together, who want to support each other in their own faith life, what we call piety, in their growth in relationship and friendship to the Lord, that want to continue to grow in their self-understanding, in their understanding of the faith, who want to study in that sense, to grow in knowledge and understanding of God, of the church, myself, and who need to then put it all to service, because all the faith in the world, all the knowledge in the world is for naught. Just look up and read 1 Corinthians 13. All of the faces of love. Love lived out in a concrete reality. In a specific environment. There are a number of environments in which we move. There, I need to live my life as a Christian. And the only tool I have are my piety, my study, and my service. And I do this with the support of my groupies, of the members of my group reunion. Many think that they made the weekend and they don't really need a group reunion. They haven't got a clue. Because we don't, and we're not called to journey alone. Even the Lord sent them 2 by 2 to proclaim the good news. And so we cannot journey. We need their prayers, their support. We need to be able to come together and share our Christian journey so that we can continue to extend indefinitely through our fourth day, that 3-day experience. That's what grouping is all about, and that is what Ultreya is all about, because Ultreya is the reunion or the meeting of group reunions. Not just a loose gathering of Cursillistas from some area, but groups who have grown and like cells split up because it cannot be more than 6 people, or there's no real way in a short time to share our Christian journey and walking. And so the Ultreya as a way of being able to meet those who were at one time with me, to hear their stories, to hear their journeys, to share one another and to rejoice. Share that time and to rejoice in our Christian journey, despite the troubles, despite the challenges that we might have had. And we are nourished and strengthened by the witness of those who get up and speak and share their journey. These are the simple tools of the fourth day. Grouping, Ultreya. For those who have selected Cursillo as a ministry for themselves, for whatever period of time they do. Not like Sharon that's been there like forever. Okay, Sharon, sorry I had to say that. But it's not necessarily that way. And I've seen it many times, excellent leaders. But they felt called by the Spirit, by the Lord, into other areas. Never forgetting that their primary ministry is their environment, their home, their workplace, their profession, their community, their political party, wherever it is, that they are Christian ferment, Christian vertebrae, as Jesus and as Eduardo Bonin would say. We need to be that vertebrae that holds up the body of Christ in the midst of trials and difficulties. We have to be the backbone, to be the backbone of our family, of our society. And so, those are the three faces. A lot of news in a very short time. I give thanks for all of you, for your love and for your support. You are assured of my prayers. And I have questions for discussion, as you know, in every one of these sessions, which your coordinator will facilitate for you. God bless you, and you have a wonderful evening.